Discovered at the wedding. How a father's recognition transformed my family. Embarrassment moment. Emily Carter stood at the edge of the grand hall, the lavish decorations mocking her humble dreams. Twinkling lights hung like stars in a night she felt she didn't belong to. Each glimmer a reminder of her father's unyielding expectations. The extravagance of her sister's wedding consumed her. With every perfectly arranged bouquet and meticulously designed gown echoing the affluent world that seemed a universe away from hers. How had she, an aspiring environmental scientist, instead become the family embarrassment? The label stung hard. Like the prick of a thorn one her former classmate, now a prosperous corporate lawyer, had smeared across her chest at the last family gathering. It was an assertion that rang true. A shadow that loomed larger and larger over her hopes. How can you call yourself a scientist if you don't even have a job lined up? A taunt that squeezed her chest, leaving her breathless and filled with oppressive unease. Would her father, whose work ethic shaped their very existence, think the same? Success, as he defined it, resided in financial stability. Passion was an embellishment, the extra ornamentation on a Christmas tree that would be taken down long before the new year. As the reception swirled around her, laughter mingled with the clinking of glasses. Emily's thoughts spiraled in every direction, colliding with her fear of inadequacy. Her sister's triumph felt like a spotlight illuminating her failures, the smell of fresh flowers hanging heavy in the air tainted with the scent of desperation. She struggled to breathe as each table discovered their carefully curated conversations, their polished lives gleaming so brightly that she feared the dullness of her own. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as the tension peaked and the anxiety of being out of place swelled, Emily's father rose, wiping his hands on his trousers, a quiet man whose presence now demanded attention. Clearing his throat, a hush fell over the gathering. As he stood there, with the weight of years etched into the lines of his hands, Emily felt her pulse quicken. She could sense he carried something important, something that could alter the course of their evening. "Honey," he began, eyes scanning the room as he reached into his jacket, pulling out worn and yellowed journals, artifacts from their family's past. "These belong to my father, your grandfather." The gasps rippled through the assembled guests, and Emily's heart raced with confusion. "He had dreams of becoming an environmental scientist, just like you." Recognition flooded Emily's veins. Her grandfather, a man of brilliance whose aspirations were crushed by a society that viewed talent through a lens of privilege. A legacy hidden amidst the pressure of opportunity and expectation. The realization hit her, igniting a flame of determination within, a desire to reclaim her own dreams and honor their shared fight against prejudice. Her father's unexpected revelation pulled the ground beneath her, a beautiful chaos intertwining their past struggles with her tumultuous present. As the crowd leaned in closer, captivated, so did Emily, each piece of her grandfather's story a mirror reflecting who she wanted to become. Yet the crushing pressure of judgment still lingered, weighing heavily on her shoulders. Would she seize this chance to embrace her true self, or would she retreat back to anonymity, suffocated by familial expectations? The wedding continued in a whirlwind of glitz, but within her, a storm brewed, leaving the question burning. Would she dare to break free, or let the shame tether her to mediocrity? The weight of her father's unexpected words lingered in Emily's mind long after the wedding festivities wound down. She stood alone in her childhood bedroom, bathed in the soft light of the setting sun filtering through the window. The familiar blue walls, once filled with aspirations and posters of environmental wonders, now felt like a prison. Her heart raced as she reflected on the revelation of her grandfather's dreams. Had they slipped through the cracks of history, forever buried under the expectations that shrouded her family? Determined to break this cycle of forgotten ambition, she pulled her grandfather's journals from the box in her closet, where they had remained untouched for too long. Each page, yellowed and brittle, held stories of hope and determination. As she thumbed through them, A vision of her grandfather took shape, an intrepid scientist battling societal norms, fueled by a passion that resonated across generations. In that moment, a radical clarity ignited within her. She would honor her grandfather's legacy by embracing her own passion for environmental science, not as a failure but as a commitment to something greater. The thought, once shrouded in fear and doubt, started to feel like a quiet promise she made to herself. But fear still clung to her, like a shadow refusing to be shaken off. How could she pursue her dreams in a world that seemed so fixed on traditional measures of success? The days that followed the wedding were a whirlwind of self-reflection and planning. Emily sought out mentorship from her college professors, piecing together a network of opportunities around her. She would dive into research, tackle environmental issues, and reclaim her narrative. Every late night spent studying, every phone call made to potential internship opportunities, felt like a step toward reclaiming not just her dreams, but her entire identity. In efforts to elevate her confidence, she initiated conversations with local environmental organizations. The first few were daunting. Every rejection ignited self-doubt reminiscent of her wedding experience. Yet, a flicker of resilience began to take hold. With her newfound focus came the awareness that failure was a necessary stepping stone on her journey. Her father's admiration for her grandfather had left an imprint on her heart, encouraging her to confront the looming question of their family's legacy. She researched local conservation efforts, determined not to become just a footnote in her family's history, but a pivotal chapter in its unfolding. With nights spent selecting key issues to address, Emily's vision crystallized a desire to advocate for the protection of wetlands, a vital yet often invisible ecosystem facing increasing threats. The passion surged through her veins like wildfire. However, she soon faced the stark realization that not everyone shared her newly found fervor. A dinner with her family turned confrontational, as they dissected her plans with thinly veiled skepticism. "You really think you can make a difference?" her older sister questioned, the condescension palpable. The crisp crack of that tone sent shivers down Emily's spine, but rather than retreat, something stirred. Deep inside, she mused, was it time to confront these judgments head-on? As she sat there, steeling herself against the wave of familial expectations crashing over her, a wild thought emerged. Maybe success didn't look like what they'd always defined it to be. Maybe it was something more personally tailored, the exploration of emotion intertwined with ambition. She exhaled slowly, realizing the depths of her aspirations stood in stark contrast to their narrow views. The conversation had shifted from simple dismissals to outright challenges to her character, raising stakes she hadn't anticipated. With determination filling her speech, Emily declared, "I won't just dream, I'll act. I owe it to my grandfather and to myself." As the words left her mouth, she felt the authority in her tone. Was she really prepared to face the family embarrassment head-on, penetrate their judgments, and stake her claim in the world? The conflict palpable, Emily's heart surged with exhilaration. A conflict line had been drawn, but the greatest confrontation loomed ahead, one with her past, her family's opinions, and ultimately herself. The question thrummed in the air. Would she find the courage to rise above their doubts and forge a groundbreaking path? Or would she find herself tethered to their expectations yet again? The battle for her identity had only just begun. Emily's resolve hardened in the days that followed the dinner debacle, as fresh determination layered itself over the earlier self-doubt. The sting of her sister's skepticism lingered in the corners of her mind, but it became less a chain than a spur. It was time for actionable steps, not just idle aspirations framed by familial disapproval. She began her mornings with a ritual, brewing strong coffee and mapping out concise goals for the day. Her first target was the Environmental Coalition, a local organization actively working towards wetland preservation. It was one thing to study ecological principles in a classroom. It was another to engage directly in grassroots efforts. That afternoon, she crafted a carefully worded email that outlined her passion and drive, her eyes flickering between decisiveness and trepidation as she hit send. Could she effectively contribute as an intern, or was she merely a naive dreamer? A reply arrived swiftly, inviting her for a discussion. The exhilaration was electric, but it soon met a block of anxiety. Visions of her family's doubts danced mockingly in her mind. What if she faltered in front of people who had dedicated their lives to advocacy? Each tick of the clock amplified the pressure, but she refused to withdraw. The moment had become more than just about her aspirations. It also symbolized an assertion of her will, an ingredient for growth. On the day of her meeting, Emily donned her favorite blazer, the one that once made her feel invincible during school debates, as if armor was an accessory. The drive there was filled with affirmations. She concentrated on the knowledge she possessed, on the endless hours she had pored over her grandfather's journals. Nostalgia enveloped her, and she remembered his words urging each of his descendants to chase dreams unflinchingly. The coalition offices buzzed with energy, and Emily felt a thrill coursing through her as she stepped into the vibrant space adorned with photos of local projects. This was where action thrived, and she was ready to immerse herself. The director, a seasoned environmentalist named Dr. Rivera, welcomed her warmly but with an intensity that demanded respect. As they discussed her vision for contributing, Emily felt nerves simmer beneath her enthusiasm. Would her ideas resonate or fall flat? Each question posed by Dr. Rivera became a chance to showcase her insight and passion, and she embraced it, even when met with challenges. How do you plan to engage a community that is largely uninformed about wetlands? He probed, the oversight of his brow indicating he was not easily swayed. She paused, recalling her childhood explorations in nearby marshlands. I believe education is the first step. We have to bridge the gap between the science and the community's understanding. Workshops, school programs, something interactive that can foster a real connection. Emily answered, her voice firm, resonating with sincerity. Dr. Rivera's gaze softened as he listened, and for the first time in days, the shadows of doubt began to recede. Very well, Emily. We could use someone with your passion. Let us set up some workshops. The words hung in the air, transforming into light as her heart raced with newfound potential. Yet with triumph came a sobering thought: there were other hurdles ahead, including the inevitable reactions from family as she forged this new path. How would they digest this turn in her journey? Would they finally see her as more than just their dubious sibling? As she walked back to her car, an invigorating sense of agency enveloped her. The confrontation with Dr. Rivera had felt exhilarating. It ignited a fierce conviction that she could indeed shine not just in this initiative, but in her entire life. Later that evening, her phone buzzed with a text from her sister, laced with skepticism about her internship. Emily could almost hear her voice, dripping with the same sarcasm and disbelief from the dinner table. A decision coalescing in her mind weighed heavy on her spirit. It was necessary to stand firm, and she resolved to confront this doubt directly. The moment had come. She would share her journey with clarity, a blend of courage mixed with vulnerability. But how will she be received? The stakes were high, but she was no longer the timid girl second-guessing her worth. She was carving her own route, and this next conversation would be a pivotal act in laying the groundwork for complete self-acceptance. As she steeled herself to respond, an unsettling thought pierced through the rising confidence. What if this confrontation only deepened the chasm between her and her family? Would the battle to claim her identity come at the cost of familial ties? The answer loomed like a storm cloud overhead. Emily took a deep breath, her fingers poised over the screen. The journey ahead demanded everything: courage, conviction, but above all, an unwavering commitment to herself. In that moment, every uncharted path on the horizon seemed to whisper back at her. Would she follow through, or would she falter under the weight of expectation? Emily's fingers hesitated above the screen, and the disquiet of the impending conversation doused her initial excitement. With every word she contemplated, her resolve teetered between empowerment and the urge to retreat into silence. Each potential response felt loaded, dripping with implications of both rejection and acceptance. She weighed the risks of sharing her ambition, the very essence of who she was trying to become, against the stark reality of familial judgment. In that charged moment, Emily chose honesty. She typed with urgency. I'm nervous about how you might view my internship with the Environmental Coalition. It means a lot to me, and I truly believe I can make a difference, even if it seems far-fetched to you. Her pulse raced as she hit send, the action now occurring in a vacuum of uncertainty. Though the reply came quickly, her sister mocking the notion that an internship could change anything, Emily could feel the faint threads of old insecurities beginning to unravel. Instead of responding in kind, she paused, considering the best approach to convey her genuine passion, allowing the sting to settle without igniting a defensive spark. Gradually, a plan took shape in her mind, one that transcended the negativity thrown her way. She decided to focus on establishing her own narrative, starting with the workshops she had envisioned. If several sessions could tangibly affect the community, perhaps she could show her family that dreams, no matter how small or naive they might appear, could lead to genuine growth and engagement. Over the next few days, Emily immersed herself in preparatory work. She spent hours drafting outlines, brainstorming engaging activities, and researching effective teaching methods. Each task filled her spirit like pieces of a puzzle snapping into place, brightening the once foggy landscape of her ambition. Dr. Rivera had mentioned that she would have support from other team members as her workshops developed, further diluting the doubts she often felt alone in bearing. Driven by purpose, she reached out to her former high school teachers, inviting collaboration on educational programs. Engaging them felt as if she were stitching herself back into a fabric of community, while bravely stepping forward. Their responses were encouraging, and Emily felt her confidence surge as connections formed and ideas blossomed. This was more than a mere science endeavor. It morphed into a chance to advocate for something she believed could enact real change. Yet as she delved deeper into her work, she also had to confront the complex reactions at home. Her sister's scoffing text still lingered in her thoughts, reminding her how tightly knit family opinions were, and how easily they could unravel her efforts. With each step forward, she questioned whether her quest for self-acceptance and familial approval could coexist. One evening, while sharing dinner with her family, a setting fraught with tensions under the hum of casual conversation, Emily took a bold leap. "I've started working on environmental education workshops," she announced, each word a thin thread drawing taut against the room's anticipations. The response was mixed. Her mother smiled politely, while her sister smirked, rolling her eyes. Yet for Emily, the act of voicing her ambitions was invigorating. It felt as though she had finally planted her foot firmly in her own path, regardless of how it landed in the family's discourse. As the weeks unfolded, Emily found herself researching, creating lesson plans, and reaching out to local schools for partnerships. The response she received was beyond what she had expected, further solidifying her belief in her purpose. However, underlying tensions at home persisted, each family interaction proving to be an exercise in negotiation between her newfound aspirations and their outdated perceptions of her. Then one fateful afternoon, an unexpected phone call shattered the routine. The Environmental Coalition was invited to present at a conference on ecological preservation, and they wanted her to lead one of the workshops. The exhilaration felt in her chest was a surge of power, yet a distinct fear lingered. This was more than just an opportunity, it was a spotlight that loomed large over her relationship with her family, and how they perceived her choices. As she prepared for the upcoming presentation, she faced an unnerving thought. Could she step into this moment and fully claim her space among seasoned advocates without losing the familial connection she so deeply desired? The stakes had never felt higher. The journey was evolving rapidly, and for the first time, Emily had to confront the reality of standing alone, a choice between being true to herself or conforming to the expectations surrounding her. Would she rise to claim what she had manifested, or would she cater to the voices that had echoed doubt for all too long? The battlefield was set, and Emily felt the weight of the moment pressing down. She had a decision to make, and the outcome could redefine everything she had worked to establish in her journey. The days leading to the conference passed in a whirlwind. Emily's routine morphed into an unyielding grind, merging research with presentations. Yet her mind was a cauldron of doubt. The buzz of excitement was often drowned by the echo of her sister's ridicule. What if the workshop flopped? What if the audience saw her as just another amateur trying to make waves in a world governed by experts? Despite the fears that gnawed at her, she persisted. Each night, after returning from long hours at the coalition, she sat with her laptop, reviewing slide after slide, arranging her thoughts meticulously. The significance of leading the workshop weighed heavy on her shoulders, so she visualized every detail as if preparing for a grand performance on stage. But as she rehearsed in front of the mirror, practicing her opening lines, a thought struck her like an icy gust of wind. What if she didn't need to put on a show? What if she could be authentic, embracing her vulnerability instead? For the first time, she felt a glimmer of realization. Her passion for environmental education was what truly mattered, not the validation from others. That night, in a moment of clarity, she penned a reflective piece on what the efforts meant to her, leaving behind the need for approval. It was liberating. Shedding the skin of self-doubt allowed her words to flow freely. With every keystroke, she reclaimed her narrative. This wasn't about pleasing her family. It was about fulfilling a calling that had ignited her spirit that as she prepared to present. She turned her attention to the upcoming interactions with the community. Her initiative was not just academic, it was personal. She reached out to the community representatives, sharing her vision for sustainability education, not just for the sake of environmentalism, but for the future of the next generation. Then came the day of the conference. The air crackled with anticipation, and as she clutched her notes backstage, her heart raced. She could hear the murmurs of the attendees, the established names whispering about her. Standing in front of a crowd felt surreal, but there was also a sense of purpose and newfound strength pulsing through her veins. The moment she stepped into the spotlight, a wave of warmth enveloped her. Emily took a deep breath and chose to open with an anecdote about her journey, highlighting both the hurdles she faced and the support she began receiving from like-minded individuals. The initial applause settled her nerves, and she saw the faces before her shift from skepticism to intrigue. As she walked them through her presentation, discussing the importance of community involvement in environmental education, she felt a sense of empowerment crescendo within. She was no longer the hesitant girl at the dinner table. She was an advocate, a voice echoing with passion and conviction. However, after the applause faded, one pressing thought loomed large. What awaited her back home? How would she reconcile this moment of triumph with the voices that had once cast doubts? Her mind echoed with memories of her sister's derision, and determination sparked anew. Despite her success, the weight of familial acceptance still lingered. Would she be able to bridge this newfound self with the familial dynamics that had stifled her for so long? The truth was undeniable. On the horizon loomed another pivotal moment, the impending confrontation with her sister that would force Emily to navigate the landscape of not only her aspirations, but the threadbare connections with her family. As she stepped off the stage, amidst the applause and supportive conversations, a singular question breathed life into her uncertainty. Could she pursue her truth and still nurture the bonds that had shaped her? The road ahead urged clarity, and her next steps were more crucial than ever. Emily left the conference hall, the reverberations of applause still echoing in her ears. Yet the triumph felt incomplete. The thrill of sharing her vision and being recognized for her efforts surged through her, but the reality of her personal life loomed like storm clouds on the horizon. As she navigated her way through the buzz of attendees, congratulatory voices fading into a murmur, her mind was locked on her sister's severed connection. What would happen when she returned home? It had become increasingly clear that this success was but a mere momentary bubble inside a broader narrative, a narrative still lacking her family's understanding. Arriving home, the familiar scent of her mother's cooking filled the air but felt oddly distant. The walls here, painted in memories of laughter and love, now bore the weight of expectations. She dropped her bag by the door and paused, trying to gather her thoughts. Facing her sister after today's events felt like standing before an avalanche. Would the conflict erupt anew? Or could they find common ground? But first she needed grounding. In her room, surrounded by notes and scraps of ideas, she sank into her trusty armchair. With a notebook in hand, she began writing. Instead of rehearsing what she might say to her sister, she documented her experience at the workshop, detailing the encouragement she had received from strangers and the passion fueling her resolve. This reflection allowed her to stitch together a new personal narrative, one with threads of resilience and growth rather than doubt. The ink felt liberating on the pages. She questioned her own assumptions about her family's perceptions. Were they truly dismissive, or had she merely interpreted their skepticism as disdain? As these thoughts danced through her mind, a possibility emerged. Her sister's perspective could be a potent force for growth, rather than merely a source of pain. Could this confrontation lead not just to understanding, but to an invitation for her sister to join her mission? With a newfound resolve, Emily decided to confront the dread head-on. The next day, she reached out to her sister, suggesting a coffee catch-up to celebrate her success. The response was lukewarm, but it confirmed a meeting. Faced with lingering unease, Emily prepared for their encounter like a general mustering troops for battle. Sitting across from her sister in their favorite cafe, where years of shared joys had echoed in laughter, Emily felt her pulse quicken. Her sister looked skeptical, a flicker of doubt illuminating her features as if waiting for the inevitable challenges to emerge. Gathering her strength, Emily initiated the conversation with something easy, something light, but it wasn't long before her yearning for acceptance bubbled to the surface. "Did you hear about the workshop?" Emily asked, her tone casual yet suffused with earnestness. "Yes, I heard," her sister replied, her eyes flicking away, the usual edge creeping into her voice. Emily pressed on, mindful of her words. "It was different this time. I felt connected to everyone. It was fulfilling." Silence lingered, heavy with unspoken questions. Was her sister waiting for Emily to prove she could stand on her own before offering support? Did she feel threatened by Emily's newfound confidence? The pure confrontation of emotions reached an intensity that felt almost tangible. Emily sensed the moment of truth tiptoeing closer. Did she dare articulate her deepest fears? Would she speak the unfiltered truth about wanting her sister to understand and support her journey? "Elsa," she said, addressing her sister directly, tears glistening in her eyes, "can we talk about how I've been feeling? About us?" At that moment, a flicker of vulnerability crossed her sister's face, and Emily knew she had ignited a flame that could either illuminate or engulf them both. The stakes were high. The decisions they made now could either bridge a chasm or widen it further. Just as she felt the walls beginning to crack, her sister remained silent, the tension between them thickening palpably. Would Emily's journey truly intertwine with the bonds that had once served as her greatest hurdles? The impending choice loomed closer, echoing in her mind, propelling Emily toward a confrontation that felt both liberating and terrifying. Could she transform familial conflict into understanding at last? The moment had come, and there would be no turning back. Emily stared into her sister's eyes, searching for the flicker of understanding that had been so elusive in their conversations for years. Instead, she found only a fortress, built high with bricks of misunderstanding and expectation. Her heart raced, not from fear of confrontation, but from the weight of potential connection. She took a deep breath, determined to break through the silence. "Elsa," she started again, her voice trembling slightly, "I know things have been hard between us. I've felt it for a long time." The muscle in her sister's jaw tightened as she looked at Emily, caught between duty and emotion. "I just don't understand why you keep putting all your energy into these things," Elsa said sharply, a hint of despair creeping under her words. "Don't you find it exhausting?" Facing this barrier, Emily felt a swell of frustration. "It isn't exhausting. It's invigorating. They've given me a purpose, a sense of belonging I haven't felt here." As those words left her mouth, Emily's own vehemence caught her off guard. This wasn't just about a workshop, it was about validation, a yearning to be seen beyond familial roles. The silence deepened as Elsa regarded her, calculating the weight of her sister's passion. What if Emily could articulate the vision that had ignited her creativity? What if she shared the impact those connections had on her life? "Elsa, I've discovered something important about myself," Emily said. We need to evolve. The person I am forming doesn't entirely fit the mold of what we were taught to be. Can't you see that?" A moment of tension slowed time, hanging thick and impenetrable. Would Elsa challenge her again? Would their mutual history of rivalry and expectation consume them once more? "Maybe I just don't want you to be disappointed in me," Elsa retorted, her eyes narrowing as if searching for a flaw in Emily's newfound confidence. "What if you fail? What then?" The question crashed into Emily like icy water, but instead of folding into despair, she felt a seed of determination growing inside her. "What if I fail? Then I'll know what doesn't work for me. I can't let that fear dictate who I am." Failure won't erase all the hard work. It will teach me something invaluable. Elsa's expression changed, her defenses softening ever so slightly. And what if I don't understand? She asked quietly, revealing a sliver of her own vulnerability. Help me. Don't judge without trying to understand. I want my journey to be one we can share. Emily pleaded, her voice cracking. It was both a declaration and an invitation. A moment suspended between fear and hope. Emily felt her heart pounding anew, ignited by the possibility of connection. Perhaps this was the moment that could reshape their relationship, where barriers could crumble. But would Elsa accept her invitation? As they lingered in that vulnerable space, a thought dawned on Emily. What if she armed herself with influenced voices, filled her story with the confrontations that had led her to this point? Articulating what she wanted to achieve was only part of the journey. She needed to guide Elsa to see the complexity and beauty in that process. Let me show you more, Emily urged. Let us go to the next workshop together. You'll see what I mean. I want to share this with you. The thought flitted through her mind, a pact rising from conflict, something more than mere coexistence. Elsa hesitated, the past and present colliding in her thoughts. In that charged moment, Emily recognized they stood at a crossroads. This wasn't just about attending workshops. It was about weaving a new narrative, together. But the path forward remained murky. Would they choose to explore it? Or would fear stifle this emergent possibility? As Emily awaited her sister's decision, she felt the walls of her past, her fears and family expectations still looming behind her. But the winds of change were stirring. The moment felt fleeting, yet the weight of what hung in the air was palpable. Would they stretch the boundaries of familial connections? Or would this moment mark yet another deadlock? Emily's heart raced as she held her breath, waiting for Elsa's response. It felt as though the world around them had hushed, every ambient sound fading into a muted whisper. For Emily, this exchange was more than a family feud. It was a plea for acceptance, a bid to carve out her own identity in a landscape riddled with familial expectations. Okay, Elsa finally said, her tone restrained yet grounded. I'll go. But only if you promise to explain everything. I need to understand why this is so important to you. Relief flooded through Emily, but it was tinged with a hint of trepidation. She nodded, her resolve crystallizing. This was the beginning of a journey they would explore, not only the workshop, but the very dynamics that had hidden beneath the surface for years. The days leading up to the workshop were a whirlwind of anticipation laced with anxiety. Emily pored over notes and workshop materials, determined to articulate her vision. She recognized that sharing her journey meant being vulnerable, navigating the fear of judgment from her sister, who had always viewed life through a lens of pragmatism. On the day of the workshop, tension hung heavily in the air. Emily wore a brave face as they entered the warmly lit space, decorated with vibrant colors and filled with strangers who were also seeking connection. The chatter of enthusiasm mixed with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled her senses, stoking the embers of hope within her. As the workshop progressed, Emily opened up her world, sharing her insights and experiences. As she spoke, she felt a shift within herself. It was as if she were peeling away layers of old skin, revealing resilience forged from past struggles. Her passion ignited a spark in the room, and she was met with nods of understanding, laughter at shared experiences, and even moments of profound silence as participants absorbed her words. Elsa sat slightly apart, her face an enigmatic mix of interest and skepticism. Emily's confidence flourished alongside her discomfort, like two sides of a coin. Would Elsa draw closer to understanding her, or remain tethered to the expectations that bound her? As the workshop concluded, participants gathered for an open discussion. Seizing the moment, Emily turned to Elsa. What do you think? She asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Did it resonate? Elsa hesitated, her brow furrowing. I can see why you find this fulfilling, but I still struggle with how it aligns with reality. These ideas seem so detached from what we've always known. The response stung. And yet Emily sensed a flicker of something deeper lurking behind Elsa's words. It can seem that way, she replied. But what if we redefine our reality? We can still hold on to the past while integrating new perspectives. Look at the way people connect here. This is what I want for us. As they walked out, The distant sound of laughter echoed behind them, a reminder of the vibrant energy within the room. Emily's mind raced, contemplating how to navigate this new territory with her sister. The gap between them felt less like a chasm and more like a bridge being constructed, each exchange a step toward potential understanding. But doubts clung to her, like the unyielding chill of morning dew. What if this bump in the road only solidified their divide? The uneasy feeling persisted as they approached the parking lot. The bright sun a stark contrast to the shadow of uncertainty that loomed over their conversation. Did I end that moment of tension? A thought ignited within Emily. What if she invited Elsa to engage in conversations not just about workshops, but about their shared memories and how they could reshape their future together? The fear of being misunderstood had held her back for too long. With renewed determination, she turned to her sister. Let us make a pact. Every week, we'll talk about what we're experiencing and how we can build something new together. I want us to navigate this ground as partners, not just sisters caught in old patterns. Elsa's eyes widened as she processed the proposal. But how will we get there? The question hung in the air, an exquisite taste of the unknown. In that moment, Emily realized they stood not only at the cusp of a new chapter in their relationship, but perhaps at the beginning of a transformative journey that would challenge everything they thought they knew. Would they dare to confront the dissonance between their past and potential future? The answer danced at the edge of Emily's mind, tantalizingly close, yet still shrouded in uncertainty. Emily stared at the pavement beneath her feet, thoughts spiraling like leaves caught in an autumn gust. The weight of Elsa's question lingered in the air, sharp and demanding. How would they bridge the gap between the past and the changes they both needed to face? The idea of confronting their estranged relationship head-on felt monumental, yet exhilarating. Let us set a date, she said, her voice rising slightly to break through the suffocating silence. This week, we'll sit down just like this and talk about our lives, everything. No judging, just listening. Elsa crossed her arms, her skepticism palpable. And what if we find ourselves at an impasse? Those conversations can get heated. True, Emily acknowledged, her heart pounding at the thought of potential clashes. But isn't the discomfort worth the chance to connect? We can redefine what sisterhood means for us. Though Elsa's initial response was a reluctant nod, the slight softening of her brow suggested that something was breaking through. Emily's enthusiasm surged, fueling her with the courage to push further. This is more than just a weekly talk, Els. It's about discovery, about peeling back layers we've both built up. The drive home was a medley of silence and thoughts buzzing in Emily's mind. While she was relieved to have initiated the pact, doubts intertwined with excitement. What if Elsa never fully embraced this new dialogue? Or worse, what if she stifled Emily's burgeoning voice, keeping her locked within the walls of their shared past? In the days that followed, Emily began to prepare for their first meeting, filled with anticipation and anxiety. She curated a list of memories she wanted to explore with Elsa, moments where laughter and joy coexisted with conflict and misunderstanding. Each note she penned was intertwined with her fears, her ambitions, and her hopes for a deeper connection. On the evening of their meeting, the air was thick with anticipation. The familiarity of their childhood home bore witness to the changes she desperately craved. As they settled around the dining table, Emily could almost feel the ghosts of bygone conversations lurking in the corners, urging her to step beyond what they had always known. I thought we could start by sharing something that made us who we are, Emily proposed, fiddling with her hands in her lap. Something we've held close but never really discussed. Elsa hesitated, her eyes searching the room as if looking for a script to this uncharted dialogue. Okay, she finally said, her voice carrying a hint of vulnerability. I guess I'll go first. As Elsa voiced an impactful memory from their teenage years, the pressure to conform to family expectations, and her own subsequent rebellion, Emily's heart raced. This was no longer a casual conversation. This was a valuable exchange of truths that had remained buried under the weight of propriety and silence. Following Elsa's lead, Emily found her own story surging forth. She spoke about the anxiety of stepping into her passions, of the chokehold that fear had on her for so long. Each revealing word crafted a delicate tapestry of understanding that neither sister had anticipated, creating a heart-stirring intimacy between them. Gradually, The evening's tone shifted. Moments of laughter punctuated the heaviness. Yet the tension remained, a silent witness to their unarticulated fears. As they shared, explored, and even investigated uncomfortable spots in their linked histories, Emily sensed a burgeoning alliance, a hint that silenced conversations were finding their voice. But even as they shared, Emily couldn't shake an incessant worry. Was this growth enough? Would they fall back to old habits when the conversation drifted toward more sensitive topics? Finally, as the evening drew to a close, there was a sense of satisfaction mixed with uncertainty. They had dared to share truths, but Emily understood that this was merely the surface of the transformation they both desired. As they stood to clean up, Emily paused for a moment, summoning the courage to propose one last thing. What if we make it a challenge to not only share, but to also support each other in pursuing our goals individually and together? Elsa's brow furrowed briefly before she nodded slowly. That could work, but I need to be honest, Em. I think some of your ideas still feel a bit risky to me. Emily's chest tightened. This was at the moment they could truly confront their opposing perspectives. Would they push through these potential rifts, or would fear draw them back into their old constructs? With that question lingering in the air, Emily realized the door to exploration was wide open. Facing the uncertainty together was their next step forward, paving the way for deep revelations about their identities and the family ties that had both bound and confined them. The moment to confront their past was arriving, and with it came the promise of change. But was change too much to wish for? As confessions surrounded them, their hearts were poised on the brink of a shift neither sister fully understood yet. Emily stood at the precipice of a new reality, her vision clearer than ever. The whirlwind of past insecurities began to settle, leaving in its wake a solid foundation built on confidence. Each interaction with her sister had transformed from battlegrounds of misunderstanding into platforms of exploration. The breakthrough at the workshop and the shared reflections over coffee had illuminated the deepest truths of their bond. Days had turned into weeks, and where once fear had dictated Emily's decisions, now it was conviction that propelled her forward. The workshop she had initiated with the Environmental Coalition flourished, drawing attention from local schools and community members eager to engage. Each successful session further cemented her role as an educator and advocate, inviting a sense of fulfillment she had long yearned for. With every child that showed up, every engaging discussion that sparked among participants, she could feel the echoes of her grandfather's aspirations resonating through her actions. This tangible success did not go unnoticed. She received invitations to local events as a guest speaker, validating the importance of her mission. The first time she stood before the crowd, anxiety ebbed into exhilaration. As she shared her journey and the significance of wetlands to the ecosystem, she felt a profound reconnection not only with her audience but with her own identity. This moment was no longer just about her ambition. It was about inspiring others to pursue their environmental passions, a ripple effect nourishing a community she felt proud to be part of. Yet the path of growth was not without its bumps. Conversations with her sister remained a delicate balancing act. Soon after the workshop, Elsa had joined her for another engaging session, intrigued but still skeptical. During their discussions, moments of doubt would re-emerge, the shadows of childhood entitlements flaring up. But rather than retreating, Emily met these moments with a newfound warmth and understanding. She embraced both her sister's hesitations and her own evolution, recognizing that growth was not a linear journey. One particular evening, sitting across from each other once more, Emily initiated a crucial conversation. Elsa, I understand your concerns, but let us reimagine our definitions of success. What if we don't have to fit into rigid molds? What if our paths are just as valid? Tread uniquely. As the words left her mouth, she felt the power of vulnerability encasing her. To her surprise, Elsa shared a glimpse of her own struggles. I always thought I needed to follow the conventional path, get a stable job, and settle down, but maybe I've been on the wrong road too. The acknowledgement transformed the atmosphere. The sisters exchanged not only insights but the recognition that their legacies were theirs to define, paving the way to a deeper connection than they had previously imagined. As Emily leaned further into her ambitions, she decided to organize a community event to foster discussions on environmental conservation. Inviting her sister to co-host felt like a leap. She hoped this would solidify the bridge they were building. As the preparations unfolded, both sisters navigated the challenges with newfound camaraderie, debating ideas, executing flyers, and scouting venues with excitement. For the first time, it felt less like a struggle against familial judgment, and more like a partnership grounded in respect. The day of the event arrived, and as Emily stepped onto the makeshift stage with her sister by her side, she felt an electric rush, a culmination of her dedication. Right before delivering their introductory speech, she caught Elsa's gaze, a silent reassurance that they were no longer distant. They were allies in pursuit of mutual growth. Every enthusiastic response from the attendees anchored Emily's spirit. She realized that this venture had merged their individual aspirations, serving both the environment and their unique bond as sisters. The tumultuous journey that began amidst wedding festivities had metamorphosed into a vibrant tapestry of engagement and collaboration. In the closing moments, as the audience applauded their presentation, Emily inhaled deeply, satisfaction washing over her. The evolving relationship with her sister and the voices of the community echoed in harmony. She had conquered not merely her individual battles, but had also transformed her family narrative, turning what once felt like a burden into a shared mission for both herself and Elsa. That night, as she reflected on the breakthrough accomplishments, Emily felt the doubts of her past dissolve into a clear vision of her present and future. She was no longer the family embarrassment. She had risen as an advocate and teacher, embracing her true identity. This evolution was more than professional. It underscored the beauty of confronting fears and redefining familial ties, painting her journey with a palette of bravery, understanding, and committed action. Emily's achievement stood testament to what she had claimed, not just for herself, but also as a pledge to honor her grandfather's legacy. The walls of doubt had crumbled. The vision had been cemented. With these realizations and accomplishments interwoven into her narrative, she was ready to shine, unapologetically, in all spheres of her life. Now is the time you take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others find their journey of transformation. Comment your reactions and theories about this ending. What does achieving personal growth mean to you? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.